Hello and welcome to Vault Boys WV. I'm your card-carrying cryptozoologist, Dave Chaffins. And joining me is my favorite, son of a Mothman, Austin O'Connor. How you doing?
What's going on, man? The intro is very relevant today. I feel like
yeah.
for what we're talking about, we've kind of waned away from those things, but I feel like we're going back to our roots today.
I'm starting to think that this episode is like it's gonna be a good starting point for all of that. And I feel like that if we really use the titles that were given to us today, then I think we're gonna come out with a banger of an app, you know?
I don't think you can go wrong there then if we do that, you know?
I'm glad that you're okay with me saying a banger of an app.
I just, just do what makes you happy, you know? I'm just gonna whatever tickles your fancy. You want to say ep, say ep. You know what I mean?
I'm here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have news for you.
Okay, I'm ready for the news.
I have received my vaccine. I've been vaccinated.
Have received your vaccine, and that's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. You didn't text me though. Were you waiting to tell me here?
I was. Well, I figured, I always talk to you around this time, for some odd reason.
Yeah.
That's when I do that. I am very excited.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to go and get that. I was very, very lucky to be in a group that they were like, yep, you're ready to go, and got it.
Yeah.
And
how's your arm feel?
I mean, okay. So here's the thing. I will never complain about, me getting this vaccine and not dying. I like to not die.
Yeah.
So having this vaccine helps that.
Right.
After I got the vaccine, people had always said that you're not going to feel that great, or it could be nothing, and you could feel like feverish. The best way that I could describe post-vaccine, and it's gone today, except for I have a little bit of soreness in my arm. Soreness in my arm is just kind of a given. Yeah. It felt like I was a freshman that went out to the party, took probably I would say 3 shots tequila, 3 shots Everclear, 2 shots of Kraken, because somebody's like, hey, dude, I have this Kraken. It's black rum.
Somebody.
And probably two Natty Lights. And then I stayed up. And then I stayed up all night.
Yeah.
And then it's like Sunday afternoon that next day.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. It felt like a really absolutely terrible hangover. And I haven't had a terrible hangover since probably freshman year when I had, 3 shots of Everclear.
When you had those exact
same drinks.
See, that's strange that you had that reaction. I didn't have the next day hangover feeling.
Yeah.
But I've had a few other friends that did.
Yeah.
And it's just strange how it's kind of taking different people. I guess you really just don't know what to expect at this point.
But today I felt fine. Today,
that's good.
I just got it yesterday. So today I just have arm soreness, but I mean I have that when I get the flu shot anyways.
Right. But my arm was it was a 3-day soreness for me on my arm.
Yeah.
That was the only big thing.
I was just surprised at the feeling, because it started there, and then it kind of morphed into this. I described the scenario to my wife, who was also in the picture. My wife during that scenario, and later on that night, it felt like the time that we got married. That one time we got married, and then I had to drive to the airport in Raleigh. That same we got married at night, and then I had to leave the house at midnight to drive to Raleigh at 4 a.m. to catch our flight to go to St. Lucia, and then it was 11 a.m. I was in a van going to our resort in St. Lucia, and I felt very tired, and not just oh, I'm tired. I am gonna just I'm not in this plane of existence anymore. I am just
drained.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've heard the second vaccine is like for most people. So I'm fully expecting that to happen, but it's I will welcome it. Give me 4 of the second dose, just light me up.
Like I said, I am so lucky to get a vaccine. I I'm not complaining about that. I'm just describing to you how it felt, and it was almost comedic. Like I felt I was in a good mood yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was ecstatic to get it, but it was just funny. It was like a funny, like why do I like the very specific feelings, you know?
Right. Well, I'm just, it's so cool to me now to see how many people are getting vaccinated. And like, there have been a lot of people our age now that like it's becoming much more accessible, at least in our part of the world. Like I know some parts of the country, there's still kind of a shortage. So we've been fortunate, but seeing those numbers, the deaths and the hospitalizations go down has, I think, made my mental health improve drastically. Just not having that as much of an impending doom.
Right.
Kind of looming over.
Right.
So that's cool. I'm glad that you guys that you were able to get those.
Yeah.
I've got, I think, another week and a half before I go get my second one, and I'm loading up on ibuprofen and maybe a little bit of Gatorade. I'm just gonna take the day off. The day after, I'm just gonna take that day off and just like binge watch something. I don't know what yet. I've got it planned out as a sick day already.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, you gotta do, you gotta take care of yourself. Gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, that's
weird right now.
That's kind of been, I guess that's been my week. Other than I've been playing with my new toy a bunch. Trying to
Yeah, having fun with it.
Yeah, having fun, having a good time. Learning what.
I feel like you stepped just into the future.
Yeah, I'm like really into the future, and so now like I went to go mix down the audio for the last podcast, and it was like, hey, do you just want to like, we're just gonna skip that and we'll just put on iTunes, and I was like, sure. So I mean, it was like a minute, and normally that take like my old computer, it's like see you in an hour later, Gator. I'll be back.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased in the performance.
Yeah. There's that's like with mine when I got my new MacBook, my old one, I could barely edit my photos anymore. And then yesterday I tried this new thing on Photoshop. It's like a super enhanced, like it'll like double the quality resolution of your photo. And I was like, okay, my old one probably wouldn't even do that. And it took this one like 4 seconds to completely render the photo. And it's just like, yeah, when you step into the future like that, it's just, it's
golden.
I don't know. Like,
Everything
I think
is
you
golden.
don't realize how bad you had it until you get something new.
Right.
So I'm glad you got it though. I saw like you're playing a few PC games. I saw that too on it.
I've tried out. Pretty much. I've like gotten all the stuff that I used to play like back when I like when I had a PC. So it's like old, like what is it, like Portal. What else, like Warcraft 3, like not World of Warcraft, like the strategy game that came before that. Like the only new thing out of all the stuff, and I mean it's like a lot of old stuff like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Morrowind, Oblivion, that kind of stuff. None of the new stuff. But the main thing is Sea of Thieves. That's the new one I've been playing, and I've highly enjoyed myself playing.
I saw you
that.
said you were playing that. So that's a game that's like intrigued me, and I still sort of want to check it out.
I think that it is very like if you can get it on an Xbox or a PC or whatever. I mean, I don't have a graphics card dedicated for anything on my PC, so it runs fine on like really low graphics settings. But I mean, I haven't noticed a performance thing outside of just the graphics themselves. But anyways, it's very easy to get into, especially with a group of friends, and nothing like there's no like level up kind of, I guess, like you don't ever get stronger. You stay the same and you have the same tools all the time. So all of your money is just used for cosmetics in the game, which I like. So you don't have to
like right up your alley.
Right. So it's just like you can just pick it up and play it, and you're the same. I mean, if you have more friends, generally you got a better pirate crew. Other than that,
well, I'll have to check it out then. I've still got my Xbox just hanging out, and I feel like I haven't played it in a few years.
We'll play it together.
I switched over to PlayStation, and I don't know, the stuff with Bethesda and Xbox, that's kind of got me itching to get back into the Xbox world.
I mean, now's a good time, it seems. I went out and sprung for that PlayStation 5, and now I'm like, well, at least I can play all these other cool games.
Yeah. So do you think I haven't really heard yet? Is Bethesda going to be an exclusive now with Xbox, or have they
That's what
decided
it's.
that yet?
I mean, from my point of view, they said that anywhere that Games Pass, which is the kind of the
Hmm.
Netflix of Xbox, anywhere that's
Right.
available, they're gonna put their Bethesda games. So people are like, oh well, PlayStation could have the Games Pass, and I'm like, but they won't. So I think that they're gonna
Yeah.
stay on. I think your Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online are probably your only games that are gonna get updated, uh, just because of their. You
Yeah.
kind of don't want to silo those. They're so big,
Yeah.
you don't want to.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but that's pretty. I mean, it's big. I definitely am. I'm a little intrigued now to get
Yeah,
back into that world.
yeah, and I mean their library of stuff is, I think, better because there's not outside of maybe Minecraft, like there's not really an
Yeah.
iconic thing anymore. Halo's not as iconic as it was. I was talking about this the
Yeah.
other day. It's like the allure of Halo is going to your friend's house, getting on their Xbox or Xbox 360
Mhm.
and sitting around playing like 4-player split screen or maybe
Right.
hopping online. But you want to go back
Yeah.
to when you were like 15 or 16 doing that.
Hmm.
And
They just, I feel like they opened that market for so many other people that now they like, I respect Halo for what it was and
right.
what it created for a lot of other things. But like you're saying, like it's just not like I don't want to get an Xbox just because Halo's on Xbox or Gears of War. Both of them are kind of in the same
Right.
boat for me.
Like I would much rather.
So
I don't really care about any new Halos, but I could play Halo 1, 2 and 3 probably over
yeah,
and over again and be pretty happy
yeah.
about that.
Which you can just play that on a 360 and not spend nearly as much money as what you would on getting a new like series, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
it's hard.
I
Xbox.
mean,
There's Xbox One S, Xbox One X, Xbox Series S,
yeah.
Xbox. Like the branding is kind of strange. I don't know.
I just yeah, I respect PlayStation for just keeping it kind of
Yeah,
in
they
line.
have.
One, two, three, four, five.
One thing I will give them, and both. I'm not trying to come over here be my Sony pony, get on my little Sony pony system here. But the branding, which one is next.
Yeah,
Like they
it's
got the
just
one and the two,
yeah,
3, 4, 5, and
yeah.
then you could
It's
do
just
what is that dance? The Cupid Shuffle. The 1, 2,
shuffle. Yeah,
3, 4, 5. No, that's
I think that's Mambo number
I
five.
think that's Mambo number 5.
I
Yeah,
think
that
that's
is
Mambo number
definitely
five.
Mambo
I
number
saw where
5.
your heart was with
Yeah,
that, though. It's all your head was in the right place.
I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So what? I mean, what else? You got vaccinated. That's big in itself. You've
What
been
about
playing
now?
games.
I've talked enough about my life and what's going on. I mean, I could have discovered a treasure chest in my backyard, but I want to skip past that and ask you, what you been got going down there in your life.
Man, not a lot of stuff. I've just been working a lot, but I kind of mentioned to you my newest thing now is like I'm paying attention to my dreams a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a doozy of a dream last night. Well, I had two dreams.
Mm-hmm.
First was very like weird. I was in a room. I was like in a classroom watching a movie on like a projector, and I looked down and I was holding ET in my arms.
Hmm.
And then he turned into an otter, and then he was gone. And I woke up and I was like, that's a fucking weird dream. Like that was weird. So I go back to sleep, and in the dream, the second dream, I was in like a meadow, just like this big, vast, beautiful meadow,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this tree, the most beautiful tree I think I've ever seen, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like the leaves are changing and the wind is blowing and it's kind of hanging over, and the sky was perfect, and just like perfect sunset and clouds, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I've got my camera, so I'm taking pictures of this tree. This is perfect. These birds start flying over the tree. So far I'm like, this is great. This is
Yeah.
so awesome. Like perfect picture. I'm about to get the picture of my life. Well, then all like more birds start coming in. More birds start coming in. The sky's full of birds just going every which direction. It's like chaos. And then the sky like opens up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets dark and it starts thundering. And I see a face in the sky, just a big face kind of like Zordon from Power Rangers.
I was about to say I was about to give the example. Was it like Zordon or was it like the Teletubbies? What's the?
It was kind of like Zordon in the clouds, and it's just like staring at me, right? And I had this like sense of like I was like, all right, this is the end of the world. This is it. This is I'm witnessing the end of the world. And then all of a sudden the face like disappears and like tornadoes start popping down everywhere, and then everything went pitch black and I woke up. And so me, it's like 6:30 this morning, waking up from that, I'm just like, okay, is this the day I die? Like, is this like telling me something? Is this foreshadowing something? And I had told you before, I had some dreams where I was like things were happening after I had a dream. So it was that was a fun, like all day today I was like looking over my shoulder and like paranoid, or like thinking like the rapture is coming today or something.
Yeah. So this head in the clouds with the tornadoes, I can't make heads or tails of that. But let's go back to E.T. turning into an otter when you're in classroom.
Yeah, that one I have no answers for on that.
So I'm thinking to myself, I have a dream deck, which is like it decodes some of your dreams and what you could be, what you could be doing. And I think aliens symbolize something new and weird. Like there's a presence in your life that is new and weird. It is totally outside of your, I guess, your realm of expertise.
Right.
As far as turning into an otter, I mean, if it is a transformation, that means that it has changed in some way. It doesn't have a specific section on otters, but otters are was it a cute otter? Like, what was the cuteness level of this otter? Was it like, all right,
the cutest otter you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not trying to be your dream decipherer here, but I think that means that you've got a new experience in your life that's transforming into something that's more familiar and water-based.
Water-based, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I looked everything up, and like apocalypse dreams seem to mean like a new beginning, things changing, things coming to an end in your life and changing into something else. And so maybe that's like, it's a yeah. I don't know what's coming my way. I don't know.
I tell you
exactly.
I've told you before, and I'll tell you again. Come into my house. We'll have you. We'll draw your animal spirit. We'll do your tarot card. We've got all the things. I'll even hold a séance. We'll get the Ouija board out. We'll I've
never messed with that stuff before, but maybe it's time.
I think
the thing, like what I was saying, it definitely makes me think of like, I think this is a good segue. This is a very, like, I have no shame in the segue.
Okay.
Just prophesizing things and maybe foreshadowing things and warning of things. It very reminiscent of I think like one of our favorite things in the world, and that's the Mothman. The infamous Mothman.
The Mothman. What are you talking about? What is this thing?
The Mothman. Well, so how many times have we, I guess on the old podcast, we probably had to talk about him, like 4 or 5 times? Like,
I think that episodes? We actually talked about him twice. One in the context of just Mothman.
Yeah.
Twice in the context of Injured Cold. But I don't think here's the thing. We haven't caught up with Mothman. We haven't done really an intro way for people to discover Mothman, and Mothman going forward and going into the future is such an integral part to the show.
Yeah.
What is this show? I'm not sure, but he is definitely integral.
He's right there. He's right there with us.
Yes.
But the Mothman, I guess I don't really know how many people wouldn't know who he is, but I guess we can do like a rundown before we move forward with what he's up to now. So the Mothman is sort of like, I feel like he's like an icon in West Virginia. I would say that's probably a fair way to describe his level of stardom here. Essentially, I guess the Mothman was first sighted in, I believe, 1966. just north of Charleston first.
Yeah.
There were some guys, I guess, digging in a cemetery, digging graves, and saw what they couldn't explain, like a flying creature with red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then not long after, Point Pleasant had, and this is like long story short, I'm not really going into details.
No.
But Point Pleasant had a string of sightings, I think over the course of like a year or two, of this winged, like red-eyed, humanoid, like 6-7 foot tall creature that was flying around, and everyone felt dread, and just weird, spooky things were happening. And then, eventually the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant collapsed, and then he was never seen again in Point Pleasant. And all of these people claim to have seen the same thing in different parts of town, different families, people that had no reason to lie about it. And there were so many police reports that eventually, like, national news sources were picking up the story and running it. And I think because of the Silver Bridge collapse, a lot of people just sort of assumed he was warning of this. And I think over the years, there have been sightings of him in other places where something happens after he's spotted, and he's sort of become this like harbinger of doom. Like, he's telling you something bad is going to happen. That's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really guess there's ever been like a report of him really attacking a person. Like, he's just kind of hanging out. Like,
people are afraid of him, but there's no like, oh, Mothman came and scratched me in the night, or oh, Mothman came and did this to me, and like, there's just none of those real reports.
Yeah, he's just kind of a good. I think he's misunderstood. I think that's what Mothman is. I think he's misunderstood.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people associate him with things that are really like absolutely horrifying or terrible?
I think when you see like a 7 foot tall creature with red eyes flying through the sky, human nature, we just think that thing's gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm.
But like, maybe he's just lonely, Who knows how many Mothmen or moth ladies or moth whatever you want to call it. Like, how many of them are there?
Mm-hmm.
How many? Because I don't know what species he is. We got to get to the bottom of it. We got to get him some friends, and then, or maybe they already have a club. I don't know. Maybe there's several and they're everywhere.
Right. Is there one Mothman, or is there many Mothmen?
Yeah. Are they like card carrying as well? Like, do they have do they have like a union?
Right. Did they unionize? Are they?
Did they unionize? Did the moth people unionize? Like, but it's strange, and I can't like verify completely, because you can't believe everything you read on the internet. Even when you get into cryptozoology, a lot of times the sources clearly can be a little wacky at times.
Yes.
But even like Chernobyl, there people reported that they saw this winged red-eyed creature before the nuclear plant. Everything that happened there. There were sightings in where was the tsunami in like 2011?
Was that Indonesia?
I think it was like Indonesia, maybe. I forgot where, but I remember reading some articles about like there were sightings there, and places where maybe earthquakes happened before the earthquake happened.
Mm-hmm.
And most notably recently, I even saw NPR ran a story on this. He has been spotted in Chicago, which is interesting because I'm gonna let you take this from here. You received something in the mail.
I mean, I wanna get to that. That's something I want to get into, but I've kind of looked up, just because out of curiosity, what exactly Mothman has been up to in Chicago.
Which it seems like it's a lot. Like, it's not just like one guy was like, "Oh, I saw it." It's like a lot.
So it seems like Mothman is in the Great Lakes region of Chicago right now, and that's been going on apparently for about 10 years. But he has actually been particularly at the Chicago O'Hare Airport. And here we are yet again, going back to airports. So
we can't stay away.
So a number of different people have seen, like, they're delivering something, or they're going something, and they see like Mothman not in the air, but legitimately on the ground, like just standing there. Sometimes Mothman will run at them and then fly up in the air. Um,
Yeah.
Especially
He's
there
just
was
cranky now.
yes.
Yeah.
So apparently in total there were 55 different sightings in Chicago. And that's over the course of 10 years. So I'm curious what's going to happen in Chicago.
Yeah, because it seems like a long time for him to just hang out in one place.
Yeah, it is a long time for him to hang out in a particular place.
Maybe I have a theory.
What's your theory?
A couple years ago, the Chicago Bears passed on both Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes in the draft.
Is this baseball?
And this is good old American football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They passed on two of the best quarterbacks in the league in the draft to get Mitchell Trubisky from UNC, who has just been a stinker. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe Mothman was trying to tell him, hey, we
maybe you shouldn't do that. Right.
Maybe you shouldn't go with Mitch Trubisky. Maybe you should go with these two quarterbacks who, Patrick Mahomes has played in the last 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. And Mitch Trubisky has been benched for like 2 different backups twice already. So maybe Mothman was onto something. I don't know.
Right. Here's the thing that I wonder, and this is entirely unscientific, but when you think about lakes as opposed to oceans, people haven't spent a lot of time, and this is, I don't actually know, but people haven't spent a lot of time under lakes, Like people haven't been like the ocean. It's like, oh, there's a coral reef, and oh, there's like deep sea fish, and it's like nobody really knows what's on the bottom of some of these lakes. But a Great Lake,
Lake Michigan's big. That's a big lake.
I mean, when you're there, it looks like an ocean.
Yeah, it genuinely does.
You don't see there's no like, oh, there's the other side of the lake. It's like, no, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, you have legitimate waves and beaches, and it's wild. I mean, it's a very large body of water.
Some would say it's even eerie.
It's just thinking about the things that are probably in that water. Some would say. Some would say eerie.
So I'm always curious about what Mothman is up to, but we've gotten, I guess, a number of episodes talking about Mothman, a number of different things. But I finally want to break this out, and I'm gonna. This is also a video portion. I've received a letter from Mothman. Here, I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna read it to you. So this letter I received back, however long ago, I guess, like a year or two, I suppose.
It was like right when we had sort of finished up, like we were finishing up our old show.
Yeah, it was about that time. I think we had like one more episode to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will now read this. This is to both of us, really, because it's addressed to gentlemen. So I want you to know this is also to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Gentlemen. Oh, first of all, before I even begin this is postmarked from Chicago. It is addressed
from... it's legitimately from Chicago.
It is legit. Like, you can't, like... You couldn't fake this postmark. Like, you wouldn't be able to do it because it's postal service. They're gonna be the ones that put the stamp on the stamp. You know what I mean? But it's from Mr. Mann in Chicago, Illinois. Gentlemen,
Mr. Mothman,
I hope this missive finds you well. I have recently learned that you gentlemen have been learning about me and looking for me. I really wish you would not do that. I am sure both of you have more pressing things to do besides read about me and wonder out loud about me on your radio podcast. My friends told me that you discovered that I have been noticed in the greater Chicago/Lake Michigan area. While I try desperately to keep to myself and go unnoticed, occasional sightings are inevitable. People and creatures actually see me all the time. Doing ordinary things such as dropping off my washing at Sud's Laundromat on Ashland Avenue in Chicago, or attending Grandparents' Day at Tamarack Waldorf Preschool on the Lower East Side of Brady Street in Milwaukee. The only time they seem to be bothered by my appearance are when they are under a lot of stress, or I have something unpleasant to announce. That's paragraph 1. How are you feeling so far?
It's the specificness of everything.
Yeah,
is what gets me.
I'm sure that if you Google Mapped right now, if you like, do on your phone, and you're looking up, Sud's Laundromat on Ashland Avenue in Chicago, that place is gonna pop up.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I never have taken the time to do that.
I think you should. You should do that while I read the next paragraph.
Yeah.
I honestly do not try to inflict drama or on any community. I just say things as they are, like at Lake Michigan. Hey, big storm coming. Or at Point Pleasant. Say, folks, this bridge seems a little rickety to me. I hate to be that guy, the I told you so guy, but come on. It's really not a big deal. I'm just a graduate of Northwestern University's McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science in Evanston, Illinois, so I notice these things. What's the situation on the street right now?
Sud's Laundromat and Drop Off, Ashland Avenue. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So I mean, that's where you could go. That's what you could see.
There's also an Ulta Beauty right up the street. So
I mean, that's how he gets so pretty.
Double dips.
You know?
Yeah, he double dips and
double dips and gets out of there.
Yeah.
In terms of my sightings, the connections between Lake Michigan, Bermuda, and Point Pleasant are obvious if you know where to look. Most importantly, take a look at the triangles. Most persons of a certain age are quite familiar with the Bermuda Triangle. There are documented occurrences of the Lake Michigan Triangle, shipwrecks, plane crashes, and the like. A similar portal is in the Ohio River. To be sure, there are many other portals for creature folk like myself to travel through. But these are the ones that I am most comfortable with. The good people of Bermuda have the best attitude of all places. I spend my time. They know how to mind their own business and take a hint once in a while.
So should we be taking a hint? Apparently we should.
I guess. He goes on. Another helpful part of my travels between my homes is my strong affection for the tamarack tree. I like it best of all the conifers because it's the only conifer that loses all of its needles in the fall. I like that my grandchildren go to preschool at a place named after the tree. And I like to put my crafts at the Tamarack Plaza on the West Virginia Turnpike, fairly close to Point Pleasant, under the pseudonym Charles Posner. There are no tamaracks in Bermuda, but Bermuda has plenty else going for it, so that's okay. I wish you and your listeners well. Perhaps next year's Mothman Festival meetup could be somewhere on the 1,000+ miles of shoreline of Lake Michigan. Better turnout? Just a suggestion. Sincerely, Mothman, a.k.a. Charles Posner. P.S. Enclosed is a scale from one of my wings. I thought you might enjoy this artifact. And if you go to the video version or the live stream, this is the scale that they included. It's reflective, so I'm kind of shining it a lot. This all came in the envelope. There's like letters of stuff.
It's pretty wild. I mean, whoever did that, they took a lot of time out of their day. Maybe it was Mr. Man. I don't know. If it was,
I have theories. I have theories of who did this. I have my own theories. I won't say them. But I do believe that this is Mothman.
Yeah.
I think at the assistance of maybe some friends that we've had, got Mothman to come and talk to us.
So can we go out on a limb and say that Mothman is a friend of the pod?
I think Mothman is a severe friend of the pod. I'm gonna look up Charles Posner. I'm gonna look up Charles Posner right now.
Look up, Charles Posner Tamarack. See what comes up.
Tamarack. Okay. Charles Posner. Let's see. Tamarack. A year in review. There's a Gary Posner. It's hard to tell. Charles Posner. I mean, it's hard to pull up anything. It's hard to put up anything Tamarack specific. It's giving
Charles
giving
Posner.
addresses for places in Point Pleasant. This is like a weird search. There's a lot going
Well,
on
I
here.
mean, I hope that if Mothman is listening, I hope if Mr. Man is listening, that he knows that we are big time fans. We mean no ill, no ill intent is in this. We're big time fans. I mean, like I told you, I did my 4th grade social studies project on the Mothman. Learned all about Point Pleasant, and you know how big of a fan I am of the movie The Mothman Prophecies. It's a yearly watch, even though that chapstick scene still scares the shit out of me.
Where they're like, oh, reach in your drawer and you got but that's not Mothman. That's just Injured Cold.
I know, but it's like they go hand in hand, and that's what scares me, because they say that Injured Cold is still spotted in West Virginia. I think that's the scariest part about it.
So what is Injured Cold? Let's do a quick 101 on Injured here.
So another 101 course here. Injured Cold, when Mothman was being spotted in West Virginia, they called Injured Cold the Smiling Man, and he was being spotted in the areas, and he was going basically to the people who made the reports of the sightings. And I feel like he was kind of like this like Man in Black, like, well, the Men in Black also were spotted, so that's a whole other thing. But like, he was sort of this like, you didn't see what you thought you saw, and like, and I believe questioning people and showing up in their homes at night while they were asleep, and just this devilish grin all the time, and like people just said they felt uneasy, and he's just this like mysterious being. And there was a lot of other stuff about him, and he like drove a lantern or something. That there was a lot of
it's like
really
a chimney
off-the-wall
lantern, and he's from the Galapagos Galaxy or whatever.
Yeah.
I've read a whole book on it. Which, let me tell you something. I want to get into media here in a minute, but Mothman Prophecies not. If you are a reader of books, it is not a book that makes you feel, okay, everything here is pretty coherent. It makes sense to me. There's a lot in that book that...
What was his name? John Keel? Is that the author? I think it was John Keel, yeah.
It was John Keel, yep.
I think that, yeah, it's definitely an interesting take on the events. I mean, it absolutely became, it's more theatrical, and but when you start reading into like the actual reports and things that were going on, like it's terrifying. And the sightings of the TNT plant, teenagers being chased like in their car, go back into town by something that, because there were, all of these scientists, and even today they still say, oh, a sandhill crane migration pattern. You were probably seeing that. You were seeing an owl. You were seeing this, like, but these things, like, you don't just accidentally see something that's 7 feet tall with red eyes and then have people around the same time around town seeing the same thing in different places. Like, somebody's going to get a good view at this and be like, oh no, that's a crane. That's a sandhill crane, or that's this. Like, but for a whole town, even police and lawyers and doctors and people in town to be completely clueless on what they're seeing and terrified, like, there's something going on there. That's not just a happenstance of a bird that happened. Maybe it like flew into a trash bag, and like, something's going on there.
I agree. I think that there is with any of these stories. I feel like that you get a bunch of sides of the story, and then somewhere in there is the truth. And the truth, I think, is some, like, I think that there are weird things out there, but I don't think that they can be described so clearly sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more that you try, like, these Mothman sightings are like, there was a guy with big wings and he flew at me at the airport, and nobody's like, it was the Mothman at the airport. I saw him. He greeted me and he said his name is Charles Posner, and he handed me a ukulele to play.
You got your letter, yeah.
Right. I am more of the things are amorphous. Things are a little strange, but not 100% like able to. You're really not able to describe things naturally. you know?
Yeah. I and just the more I think about the universe and how unlikely it is that we're alone, and just the things that I feel like we understand in our brains and things that we are accustomed to,
Mm-hmm.
things, we have such a limited knowledge of like what could really be out there just because we're used to what we see on our planet. That is everyday life, that is normal, that is explainable.
Mm-hmm.
But like think about how vast the universe is
Mm-hmm.
and how many other things could be out there. And if they happen to find their way here, you know, of course people are going to try to say, no, that's this. Like they're going to try to have like a logical explanation for what that could be based off like what we like have reference of, like what
Right.
we can. But like there's so much out there. There's no way that there's not things like that on this planet at times that I fail to believe that it's something simple like a crane.
Yeah.
Or it's just the way they're going to explain it is always going to try to be the most logical. I don't know.
I
And a
mean,
lot of
and
times I'm sure it is logical.
I'm of the opinion that it could be a sandhill crane, but it may be like a huge like a
Something's not right.
gigantic
Yeah.
sandhill crane, like something that is like comically large and would be worth like writing about and being like, holy crap, this bird is huge.
But the thing that's strange is if it was a sandhill crane, why in Point Pleasant specifically has it just not been seen since right after the Silver Bridge collapse? Like you would think if it was, oh yeah, sandhill crane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why are we not every year seeing a sandhill crane and thinking there it is? Like nothing, it's just not adding up.
Yeah.
It's just strange. And the red eyes, that's another thing. And sandhill cranes, I believe, are pretty light in color.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone to say it was like this dark, like like black fur or black wings, red eyes, like that just doesn't add up to me. And
I mean, it could be Natalie Portman from Black Swan. I mean,
I never saw that movie.
Oh yeah, Darren Aronofsky. Yeah.
I don't know if that was a cheesy dad joke reference or not, but I'm just gonna roll with it.
I mean, it's
I'm not even gonna sigh. Look,
don't even.
Growth.
Yeah, we're growing together. So I want to get your take. I want to get your take on Mothman prophecies here as kind of like starting off the media portion, because Mothman Media has gotten pretty big. So prophecies.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that movie? Other than obviously you talked about the chapstick and
yeah, I feel like so many people have a different opinion on that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I personally really love the movie, and because I know I saw it when I was a kid, that kind of sparked my interest into Mothman, because at the time, seeing that, you're like, oh my God, that's West Virginia. Like that's my state. And did the social studies project and moved on with that. So, I mean, I think a part of it, I might be a little biased because it's nostalgia and it's something that I liked when I was a kid. But I also I typically don't like Richard Gere movies that much, but I really like
come
his
on.
character.
Nights at Rodanthe, Pretty Woman.
My grandma had that book, Nights in Rodanthe or whatever you pronounce it. Pretty
it's
Woman.
Rodanthe.
I like.
Is
awesome.
it Rodanthe? It's Rodanthe.
I thought it was Rodanthe.
I've never seen Nights in Rodanthe, but I just remember that movie title because it was always on sale at the movie gallery.
I just remember Dixie had the book on her little her little shelf of books. But I think Richard Gere's character is great. The way that they kind of have him just get sucked into Point Pleasant, not even intending to be there, and kind of the mystery of how he ended up there. I thought it was good. I don't really think it's an inherently scary movie, but I think it's creepy enough and confusing enough and enough of a mystery that it in my opinion, I think it's a good horror movie. It's not really a horror movie, but you know what I mean? It's a good kind of creepy kind of cult. I don't know. But I know a lot of people that hate it and they thought it was boring, but it still once a year I normally try to watch it, typically close to the Mothman Festival, which God knows when we'll have that again. But
not
I think there's enough
ever.
scenes in it that are creepy, and groups of people that's gonna be so I I know that it doesn't scare you, and you've made fun of me a lot for that chapstick scene scaring me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That movie is
you know how
so
I feel about
boring.
Injured Cold.
It's so boring. I want to like keel over.
See, now if I didn't like the movie, I would have laughed at your little John Keel dad joke there. But I love it. I don't know. It's like a comfort movie for me, which is scary because it's like nothing about that movie is comforting at all. But it's one of those movies. I think every person has a movie that most people think is just like ass. Like it's just a bad movie. But
it's not a bad movie. I'm never sure what is it a thriller? Is it a horror movie? Like what is is it just a detective movie?
It transcends genre.
It transcends genre.
All genres.
But like when I think of thrillers, I think of like Shutter Island. And that is exciting. Like that's like what is going on here?
It's a big time mystery. Yeah.
Right. That is more of in a thriller aspect, and I feel like that maybe Mothman Prophecies is a thriller, but I don't think there's no thrill in the thriller, you know?
I disagree, but I get why you say that. That's what I'm saying. Like I can see why people maybe don't like the movie, but I do think it was important overall to Mothman's legacy. I think after that movie came out, the Mothman Museum kind of that grew and that became a big thing, and
I think as movies evolved, like The Exorcist is not scary. Like I mean, unless you're particularly afraid of one thing, like that's a very goofy, corny movie now. But back when it came out, people were like,
Friday the 13th,
"Oh my god!"
Halloween, like those movies now, they're not really thrillers. They're just classic horror movies. But like that type of horror just doesn't work now. Like I agree. I think that's the same with Mothman. It's more of just like a creepy kind of like what is happening type of movie. But it's like I said, it's been big for the city, for the town of Point Pleasant, for the Mothman Museum, for just like the eyes on Point Pleasant and the legend of that. And I think it was important. I would love to see another Hollywood take on it that maybe isn't as cheesy in certain ways, like maybe a little scarier or a little more modern. Like I think there's a lot of potential there with Mothman and with that story. And I mean, I say Hollywood in terms of a movie, but I know you've been very excited about something in media with the Mothman.
Well, I mean, that's where I want to end. But before we get there, we obviously need to talk about Fallout 76 and how its impact. It has impacted how people view Mothman and look at Mothman, and came about a time when people were making a lot of art about Mothman. And kind of took on its own, like ascended from the game back into popular media.
Funko Pops of him, like there's
right and kind of got this like cult following, some would say. And it's the success of that game at the beginning was obviously not like stars across the board, but I think that it rekindled this like Mothmania, I guess, that happened. Kind of transcended it a little bit. I think refreshed it up,
brought its relevance back. I think that's true. Which we've talked about how, like, I guess our feelings on the video game, on Fallout's sort of its, I guess, take on Mothman and the design and how it did that. And I think we both kind of I feel like we agreed that maybe there's more to it.
It seems amorphous just in its nature, and especially even with updates to that game where they've added in cultists and like cult locations for the cult of Mothman, and there's literally a thing called the cult of Mothman. And I'm like, that's even more confusing because they worship Mothman, but Mothman is multiple things. So are we just is there a real Mothman out there? I'm sure that story will continue in some form or fashion, and I feel like that's pretty easy pickings for them to be like, okay, imagine if they just did like a Mothman expansion. Like, that would be fire.
I think that would be awesome.
That would be fire.
I feel like that would be a really cool quest line. But you had a good point last time we talked about it, about the statue, and how that maybe could be a little bit telling for for a possibility of something, because I mean, the statue in the game very closely matches the statue that is really in Point Pleasant. But then you look at the Mothman in the game, and it's nothing like the statue that seems to be, you know, the actual Mothman. Like, they don't look alike at all.
Right.
And so maybe these people worship this I don't even know how did we explain it? It's like they're not really worshiping the real Mothman, or
right.
Or
yeah, I had made a point that's essentially saying that Mothman that there is like Mothman, and then there's Mothman, and Mothman is the entity much like that looks like the statue that's probably controlling things. That I theorize is a character called Jeff Lane, that he kind of ascended, went into this weird cave, and long story made short, he ascended to creepiness. And I think that person is now the Mothman, that looks more like the statue. And all of these Mothmen are just like mutated moths, which is kind of what the game says in one way, but also turns around and says, but also no. So
yeah,
a little confusing.
It's confusing. It is definitely confusing, but it's like you said, I feel like there's so much potential for them there with that, to explain more, to just sort of play with that idea of like which is there a different, you know, version of the Mothman that maybe is more true to real life Mothman. I don't know. It's definitely it's just such a weird, and I feel like I forget often that it's really not that far from us where everything originally took place, and that there are still people alive today that, you know, saw the real thing. So I wonder how they feel seeing the media and different kind of renditions of this creature that they saw. And
right,
I don't know, it's definitely it's like I said at the beginning, he's kind of become this like cultural icon of West Virginia, and I think that this media has definitely made that more relevant. Right.
So now I get to wear my Riverdale shirt. It's my Riverdale shirt. Because
I almost wore that today for this.
The layest plotline, season 6 of Riverdale. To give you a brief rundown, obviously, if you've listened to this podcast, you know what fall it is, but let me tell you about Riverdale. Riverdale is a high school mystery show, kind of dealio.
Is it really campy? Like, I still haven't watched it. Is it like...
It's campy, but it's like self-aware in its campiness. So it's like everyone is like the actors are all aware what the heck is going on, and that all of the stuff that they're saying doesn't make any much sense at all. It is clear everyone is in on that, but it is about is based off of Archie Comics, which was an old standard of many comic shops, and it started a redheaded kid named Archie, and Archie was kind of like a character that could do anything in high school, and did a bunch of stuff that was really based in the 1950s, and was more of like a lens into like what teenage life was, or what it was thought out to be in the 1950s. So Riverdale is kind of set in an amorphous age where you're not sure whether it's 1950s or it's the 2010s. It's somewhere in between there. It's not the 60s or 70s maybe, but it's probably either 1950 or 2010 at the same time. Every season there's generally a big mystery. So like your first season is they're trying to figure out who killed a character's brother. The next season there's like a serial killer on the loose. Like there's
always something going on.
There's one season they Dungeons and Dragons, or in the show, all of the show products have like a funny name. So Dungeons and Dragons in the show is called Griffins and Gargoyles, and that infiltrates the school, and then everybody's playing the devil game Griffins and Gargoyles, which is just like D&D. there becomes a mysterious aspect where there's this gargoyle king that's slinging drugs. Drugs in the show is called Jingle Jangle. That is the drug. Like
Jingle Jangle.
Yeah, that's the drug in the show.
Yeah. Okay.
So long story short, to kind of summarize you, is they went through 5 seasons of the show. They had a break for COVID right at the end when they were, I guess, about to go to prom and graduate. And they decided when these characters graduated from high school, which took 5 seasons of the show. When they graduated from high school, they were going to do a time jump of 7 years. So all of the characters, which is generally you're following, Archie is the main character. Jughead is played by Cole Sprouse, from Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah.
And he's got a brother. He's got that twin brother named Dylan Sprouse. They're Sprouse brothers.
Is he on the show too, or is it just Cole?
No, it's just Cole. And then you've got Betty and Veronica are the characters from the comics that are there that are the ladies. So Jughead becomes a writer. That's the whole thing. There's a whole Nancy Drew joke that they make for an entire season. He's a writer and he's writing mysteries, and so the show is now tackling it from his perspective of he's in a writer's stump, and the writers send him to Riverdale, or the writers, I guess his producer, his contact. Yeah. They send him to Riverdale to write about his hometown, and they talk, and it's very interesting from the perspective of modern culture, because are you familiar with Hillbilly Elegy?
Yeah.
So that book in itself and how it portrays Appalachia is pretty problematic.
Yeah, absolutely.
They messed a lot of things. The guy that wrote it is kind of from a strangely privileged area and really talks down about the area that he grew up in, and it's
sucks.
A big center of debate, and it's very strange. But Jughead is literally talking to his producer and is like, I'm not going to write about this town. I'm not going to write a Riverdale elegy. And I'm like, holy crap. They're talking about Hillbilly Elegy. At first I was like, that's interesting, because in this show, Riverdale is now dying. They've lost they're now unincorporated, so they don't have their services anymore. They're trying to save their high school it's a dying town. And he's like, I'm not going to write a Riverdale elegy. And I'm like, whoa.
It's absolutely so many towns in Appalachia right now.
Right.
That's
happening. At first I was like, whoa, that's kind of interesting. And then he's talking with his friend, and she's like, oh, I know something you could write about. And he's like, what? He's like, Mothman. And he's like, huh? Mothman?
Mothman.
So in the show, and I've said this before, he goes out to this cabin. There's a Mothman statue. There's a guy that's talking about Mothman and Mothmen from space. And there's drawings of Mothman, of various people, having sightings. The latest episode, they found out that back in the 70s or 60s, there was sightings at a diner of the Mothman. Mm-hmm. And so you're learning about this, and then you learn that they actually, one of the Mothmen died while it was on.
So there's more than one in this universe.
It seems like there's more than one in this universe. Yes, one of the Mothmen died, and so they took it, and they didn't know what to do with it, but they didn't want anybody to find out because they killed something, and so they put it in a barrel of maple syrup, which preserved its corpse. So in the last episode, Jughead goes and rolls out a barrel of maple syrup to break it open to find a Mothman corpse. So that's where we're at.
I just picture when I picture you sitting down to watch the first episode of this whole storyline, and Mothman comes up, and I just picture you Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he's the pointing at the screen. I just picture you losing it, just world earth shattering moment.
Yes,
of you just losing your mind.
Yes.
I love that. I'll watch it. I'll catch up and get there, but
it'll be out on Netflix eventually because it has a partnership with it. It is. I am very curious as to where it will go. And it has a history of kind of dropping storylines, but then tying them back up. So generally one season is 24 episodes, and it's generally in 2 parts. And so the first part of the season will be this problem with this bad guy, and then they get the bad guy, and then the second half of the season is like new problem, different bad guy, and then at the finale, two bad guys line up, and it's like, oh, everything from the first part and the second part were all coming together. And so like all of the like there's like a number of different bad guys in the show. There was one scene where they got invited to a dinner, like these high school kids, and there were all of these serial killers in the room for their dinner, like that were already like convicted and everything. It wasn't just like, oh, they're hiding. It was like they were like known community-wide serial killers.
Just out there, just enjoying life.
Right.
Having a good time.
It's kind of like what is it? It's kind of like Cobra Kai. Like that show would be so much shorter if they just called the police. You know?
Yeah.
Like if somebody got in a fight and they're
100%.
like, let me just call the police. Instead, they got to like battle in
They've got to do a whole battle, yeah.
Right. And I mean it's like that the level of corniness if you watch Cobra Kai is about the same for Riverdale, I would say, because everybody in Cobra Kai is aware that it is like stupid. Like all of the leads know that it's like very intentionally
as long as it's self-aware.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll get there eventually. But it is neat to see like just something like that picking up a Mothman storyline.
Yeah.
So, and
well, I mean, this is Mothman for Zoomers. You know?
Basically, yeah, it's a good way to introduce them. So I'm sure maybe because there was like a weird sci-fi channel movie a few years ago that was just terrible. Like it wasn't even the same type of Mothman story, and that wasn't for me. So hopefully this might open up some people to the legend a little bit better.
The legend, aka Charles Posner. My question is, I wonder how Charles Posner feels about this new iteration of Mothman. You know,
he's just trying to live his life up in Chicago. I just picture him at like Lou Malnati's, just having a piece of deep dish pizza. And he looks up and like just sees Riverdale on TV, and he's just like, "Shit!" Just mad. Like he's trying to be.
What if he was like a big fan of Riverdale and then was just watching it for fun, and then all of a sudden they came in with the Mothman stuff, and then he did the Leonardo DiCaprio point. You know, he was like,
"Yeah." You never know. You know, if he wants to reach back out to us, he can in a non-creepy way. Please don't terrify us.
I would prefer
don't just
that.
show up at our house, please.
I would prefer that.
But if you want to come on the pod and just defend yourself and maybe let us know what's new with you, just let us know, Mr. Man. With all respect, respectfully, with kindness.
Oh,
big fans. I'm just covering my ass because I don't want to wake up and have him at my window.
Well, I feel like that we're fully caught up with our Mothman friend, and I feel like that everybody's in a good place. You know, we're all moving forward hand in hand, which is important. I wanna do more of this, like, you know, where have we been? What are we doing? Where are we going? You know, like we're setting up a thesis here, a thesis of a podcast, and we're gonna go somewhere. And it's gonna be magical. I'm gonna tell you that much.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
absolutely,
Austin, I would like to ask you, like we do at the end of every show, what are you excited for?
What am I excited for? That's a great question. I am excited for football. I've been getting all of these tweets and alerts and updates about free agency in the NFL, and I'm realizing that there's a possibility with the vaccines and with everything going on that maybe we'll have like a normal sports season this fall potentially, and that makes me happy because it has been a weird year for everybody, and I think anywhere we can get a little victory like that is good. So that's what I'm excited about. Free agency just started, and the NFL is buzzing, and that just makes me happy. I don't know. I didn't really care last year because obviously there were things more important than football. But this year I'm like, okay, it feels like it's comforting just to have that aspect of life back, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What are you excited for?
I'm excited for, you know, you always bring these things that are like, I'm excited for just, you know, the people to come back home, for things to be righted in this world, for everyone to hold hands and bring peace back. And this week I am bringing you something that is being righted.
Yes.
Something that has been wronged and is coming back and is restoring the peace of the universe, and that is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out on Friday, and I am really excited for that. So I'm
excited for it too. I forgot that was this week.
Yeah, that's this week. Yeah, I have not forgotten. I have always been a big Batman, Superman, pretty much just a Justice League fan in general. Honestly, one of the best cartoons in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched as a kid. One of the best openings for a cartoon ever.
Yeah.
You literally cannot. In fact, I think for anything outside of maybe like a few select James Bond movies, as far as like an opening theme song credit scene, the Justice League cartoon, I don't even remember. I guess it was just called Justice League, but
yeah. So you were not a fan of the first rendition of the Justice League?
No. That
movie
was
painfully bad.
It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This movie is going to be 4 hours. And it probably needs to be 4 hours because the thing that Marvel did, and they spent time with each individual character in their own movies to eventually bring them together for Avengers. And so you need to have all of that happen in one movie, and you've only spent time with, if you're looking at the trilogy, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, which had Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in it, and established them.
Yeah.
And then that's it before that. So you're bringing in Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman. Aquaman was like a real surprisingly good movie. I loved Aquaman for some, like, I was expecting to be like not into it whatsoever.
I still haven't seen it.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's not groundbreaking, you know. It's not trying to groundbreak anything.
I think the first Justice League take was so disappointing to me that I just didn't want to do DC for a while. I just was like, I'm out. I need to just.
Yeah, I understand, because it was really terrible, and a lot of people didn't care for Batman v Superman, and that was a lot of what I call the I'm a boy, where you have one character that's like, I'm a boy, and the other one's like, no, I'm a boy. Well, I'm a bigger boy. Well, I'm a bigger boy. And that's what a lot of that movie was. And so I feel like the getting the team together movie is a better thing for, and I like Zack Snyder films. I like Watchmen, particularly the extended edition that's 4 hours. I'm all about that movie. I'm into, what else? Sucker Punch. That was a great movie. 300, obviously. Like, there's a style that he has, and I'm interested to see what becomes of, because we've never had, like, think about it in the history of movies. We've never had a movie, like, imagine if they did this with Game of Thrones that last season, that it has been so hated that they went back and they were like, all right, we're just gonna, you know what, we messed up, let's just do it again and forget that one ever happened. Like, imagine if they did that for Game of Thrones.
Would love nothing more if they just let us wipe, because I've never in my life seen something that was so big just be dropped off the face of the earth of relevance so quick than after that last season. I normally, when a show's over, people talk about it for years and it still holds, like Breaking Bad.
People are still talking about Breaking Bad and Mad Men and
Game of Thrones. I couldn't give a shit anymore.
Right.
Like, after season 7, it was just like, at the end of season 7, there were some highs, but it was already kind of like getting lazy. And then season 8, it was just like, I kept holding on to hope. And then, so if they did that for that, like, that's a good comparison, I think, is like the fact that they just, it's like, just forget the first Justice League.
Right.
Didn't count. Do over. We're going to do it right this time.
And I mean, the story of how it's made was very, very sad, because the Zack Snyder, the director, and his wife was the producer on it. Their daughter committed suicide while they were filming it, and they were like, we obviously can't make this movie right now. We gotta go deal with the rest of our family, you know, and like cope with this terrible disaster. and so to come back to it and be like, okay, let's make the movie that we wanted to make in the first place and have the budget to do that, and have the company that really screwed them over from the get-go say, you know what, maybe we messed up, maybe it was our fault. So let's just we're gonna let you do what you need to do. So that's like, once George R.R. Martin maybe finishes writing his new book, maybe they'll go to HBO and be like, hey, so the writers, on that last season, we were the writers and we didn't do a good job. Can we have this guy maybe write the last season, and we'll do it. We'll just do it again. We got the money.
We'll end at the end of season 7 and just go from there.
Right.
I think that would be a good idea. I mean, there were a couple cool moments in season 8, but like, the bad outweighed it so much. And the end, like, there were so many lines in the last episode that I was just like, really? Like, it was just so like lazy. Like, let's wrap this up. Let's just finish it. Like, it reminded me of like every essay I wrote in college. Like, starts out strong, and then by the end, I'm just like BSing everything. I don't know.
Right. It's kind of like when it's like a bad thing when you go to you're like in a detective movie or like a mystery movie, and you're trying to figure out who the killer is, and then it's like they were trying to do a twist where they're like, oh man, it was this person all along, and the audience is expected to go, oh wow, but really they were like, it was the janitor in the bathroom, and we're all like, that person wasn't. That didn't make any sense. Why there
was so much hype for nothing. The Night King, just as soon as you actually see him, he's just gone. It just the easiest. Like, I don't know. It was the whole thing. I think that they could have honestly made season 8 into like 3 seasons. They should have expanded upon different things. And but to what you were saying,
they wanted to do 2 seasons. HBO wanted them to do 2 more seasons, and the people said no, that they had to go work on Star Wars. And then Star Wars
ended up working on Star Wars.
And then their Star Wars movies got canceled because of the reception to Game of Thrones. And I'm thinking to myself, has anybody shot themselves in the foot that bad?
They straight up ruined their careers. Like, I don't know, man. It's just like I said,
and it's weird because they've done like they did 7 seasons of really great show. Like, they're perfectly capable of having a good show. Yeah. Like, it's not like,
I just think they got quick. They got lazy, and they said, we're going to do Star Wars. Let's end it.
Wrap it up.
Get it over with. And
that's kind of what happened. That's the same thing that happened to Justice League. And so, like, when they went to do reshoots with it, they had the CGI. Was it Henry Cavill's lip? Like, to not. He had a mustache for Mission Impossible. I think Fallout was the one that he was in, which is a good movie. And so his lip looks really like, he looks like a little lizard person the whole time. He's like got it down here, and you can barely see the outline of his lip. Weird. Yeah, strange.
Which I prefer him as Geralt, anyways. So
I just think he's a gem. I think he's a national treasure.
He's great, man, and he's like a big gamer too. He just seems like a cool guy.
I say he's a national treasure, but he's from the British side, but he is the national treasure of Britain. Yeah. I would say. Yeah. Now that David Bowie has passed, I think he's the new national treasure of Britain.
He's the new national treasure. Mm-hmm. Wow. I think that Justice League is going to be cool. I'm excited for that. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. To which I always say, Falcon Punch.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I feel like I'm still processing WandaVision, and now they're dropping this, which is just like, bless you, Marvel. Like, you've got us lined up for the year. So, but Justice League, I'm excited. I'll have to get HBO Max. I've been kind of toying with that idea, but the stimulus check hit today, so feeling dangerous. I have to get that subscription rolling. So
we've liked the HBO Max just because there's a literal new movie every month, and it's a movie that we would probably go see anyways, just because we like to go to the movie theater, and so it became a benefit where it's like, okay, every month is essentially 2 movie tickets,
That's true. I might have to do that. I used to have it like before it was HBO Max. I think it was like HBO Go or HBO Now or whatever. And I really liked that a lot. But then I just I kind of watched everything that was on it,
Mm.
but now that seems like they've kind of like vamped that up a little bit, and there's a little more allure to it. So I think I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah,
good thing.
we're sponsored by
you got
HBO.
Me excited about it now.
We're sponsored by HBO. Use the code.
Use codes.
What would be our code?
Snyder cut.
Snyder time.
Use code.
Snyder
what
cider.
was Mothman's name? What was Mothman's name?
Charles Posner.
Use code Charles Posner 69 for nothing off.
Yes, for absolutely nothing.
Just entertain us. But yeah, you got me excited about it now. So
see, yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited for football. Look at me.
Yeah, you're not excited. You're more excited for baseball. Understandable.
I am very excited for baseball, but we'll have to talk about that another time. As always, you can catch our show live Wednesdays at 5. We go from twitch.tv/VaultBoysWV, and then so you can see us in all of our beautiful faces glory. But if you miss the stream, you can get it afterwards on YouTube. And like any podcast, you can go to your podcast services and get us on there. This week I'm going to ask listeners to do two things. We're trying to bump our numbers on Twitch. And listen, you may not be a Twitcher. You may not be twitching a lot to get on the Twitch. But I'm going to ask that if we get to 50 followers, then we can do a little bit more with the live show. And I think right now we're at 26 or 27. And if we can get to 50, that would be a heck of a grand time. So if you could go on there and just follow us, you don't even have to watch. If you're like Wednesdays at 5, I got clarinet recitals. Great. But
that's where your brain went with the
clarinet recitals, right? If you could just go and follow us, that would be great. And while you're there, while you got your little computer open, you're looking around. Here's the thing: you may not have an iPhone, you may not have an Apple device, but one thing that helps with discoverability is iTunes. And if you can go on there, go to Apple Podcasts, and give us a 5-star review. You don't even have to write anything; you just have to put in the 5 stars, and it counts. But if you want to write something, that would be awesome too. But if you can get us a review, that helps with our discoverability. That's when we starting to get paid, the big bucks. And we can do more of this, and I can trap Austin in this hell of fame. Like, imagine Austin being incredibly famous. That's
terrifying.
And don't we all want that for him? Don't we want to elevate this precious person above our heads and say, this is our chosen one?
No. I don't think they do. But if you leave us a review, just say that Mothman sent you, or
Charles Posner,
whichever you prefer.
Right. And you can always catch us on social media. You can follow us at VaultBoysWV, at VaultBoys. Whatever the Vault Boys is, we be there with our boys. We be vaulting. As far as the show today, I believe that's it. So Austin, I'm going to kindly ask